I'm gonna give you 3 steps on this. You got to go and do it yourself. It's an extremely valuable exercise, really revealing and very powerful exercise. Okay. So I'm gonna give you 3. How to train your mind for wealth. How to train your mind for wealth. Number 1 is a mental rehearsal visualization exercise. I went through about, I don't know, 2 years of looking for I became obsessed about mental rehearsal. So there's a study out there, and don't quote me on the exactness of it because, just go look it up. This will be a wild story for you. I got a couple wild stories for you today. So they had these different groups of people, and they brought them in and they taught them how to play the piano, and taught them, like, I don't think it was even that long, but they taught them some of the basics of playing the piano. They told group 1, okay, go home, do not practice the piano, do not have anything to do with the piano, and we want you to come back in, let's say, 2 weeks, something like that, right? I could be getting the dates off or whatever, but go do that. Group number 2, we're going to provide you with a keyboard, and we want you to practice every day for 10 minutes. Okay. So we're going to send you home. You got to practice every day, 10 minutes, come back in 2 weeks. Group number 3, we don't want you touching a piano, but we want you practicing in your mind for 10 minutes a day. Now, again, I could be messing up some of the details here, but this is the gist. Okay. 2 weeks later, they bring all 3 back. Group number 1 didn't improve at all. Like, no surprise, right? Group number 2 improved by, I think, like 29%. So they practice every day for 2 weeks. They improved by 29%. The wild thing, the group that went home and mentally practiced, didn't touch a keyboard, improved by 26%. And so I became obsessed with, well, what else can you do? And so I did something crazy. So I decided to really test out this theory. Every day for 7 months, I stopped going to the gym, but I practiced lifting weights in my mind. I would spend 8 minutes a day. I'm weird. I mean, y'all got to know this by now. I'm a weird cat. I have such a high belief in, I mean, now I have such a high belief in God. Back then I had such a high belief in us, right? In humans. Every day for 8 minutes, I would lay down and I would see myself lifting the weight. I would see myself doing the squats. I would see myself doing all this stuff, right? And I didn't lift one weight. I purposely avoided all weights 7 months. About 6 months in, now I didn't tell anyone this, no one, because it sounds crazy. I mean, it sounds like bonkers. Because how does it? Because like muscle, right? Like, what are you talking about? You got to contract the muscle. You got to tear the muscle down. It's got to heal for it to get bigger. So this makes no sense. 'Cause I'm not tearing any muscle. I'm not doing anything. But I just practice in my mind, and I see it very visually. I'm seeing lifting the weight. I'm looking. So for me, I didn't want to look at me lifting the weight. I wanted to look through me. So I would look as if I'm in a gym looking at a mirror. So that made it more realistic. Now, I did not move my arms. So I'm talking zero contraction of muscle. Okay. Didn't. About 6 months in, I'm not really noticing anything, but I'm just committed to the process. And so 6 months in, I'm walking around the pool and my wife says, man, you're looking jacked. Okay. Man, you're looking jacked. I hadn't lifted anything in 6 months. Now, jacked, that's an interesting term. Like that refers to muscle. Okay. And then one time I was coming, this is about the same period of time. I was coming into the garage and my wife says, your calves are looking huge. Now, I didn't tell her this. She didn't know I was doing this. Your calves are looking huge. I hadn't done anything. Now, I actually focused on calves. I did calves every day in my mind, and then I added whatever other body part. Okay. Why am I telling you this? God created your mind. Your mind is very powerful, very powerful. And, like I was listening this morning to Graham Cook in Mind of a Saint, and he was talking about, I don't always get this verbatim right, so I'm going to pull it up for you. But he was talking about Romans 8:28. And it goes, we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. And he said, there's 2 conditions to that. Those who love him and are called according to his purpose. Because here's the reality. Not everyone experiences good from what they've gone through. Why? Because they're not seeing his purpose. I know people whose lives have been completely ruined by a death in the family. It's like they died at the same day. So they're not operating as they're called according to his purpose. Now, you could argue if they love him, that's a separate question, but they're not operating according to his purpose because his purpose is not to dwell on the loss. I believe if you do dwell on the loss, then there is no good that comes from it. Think about Joseph. Joseph was unfairly sold into slavery, right? Do you hear him complaining throughout his journey when he was assigned to a pagan household, when he was thrown into prison, right? No, you don't hear him complain ever. The only even hint of it is when he tells the cupbearer, please don't forgive me, please don't forgive me. When things are repeated in the Bible, it means that they said it with emphasis. And so your mind is very, very powerful. I want to give you a mental exercise. And the interesting thing about this mental exercise is, I've done it several times. And the first time that I did it in an audience at Rankmakers Live 2022, and it produced a result I didn't know I was going to get. So I walk people through this exercise, and this one lady raises her hand, and because I said, hey, was that powerful for everyone? And everyone's like, yeah, wow. And then the one girl raised her hand. She goes, I couldn't do it. I'm like, what do you mean? And she goes, no, it just didn't feel good. And it hit me that, oh, wow. Like she actually had a revelation of what her stuckness is. And so it actually became more powerful than I previously thought. So the next month, I did it at a company event. It was in Orlando. I think it was either November or December of 2022. So at my event, I had yet to come to Christ. At this event, I had come to Christ. Okay. And so I teach this mental exercise, which I swear I am going to teach you. I teach this mental exercise. And I said, okay, who felt really good doing that? And the entire front row raised their hand. And the front row was all top earners. They're all like, they felt good doing it. I'm like, okay, if you feel good doing it, keep doing it. Good thing. I said, who didn't feel good doing it? Over 50% of the rows behind the top earners raised their hand. And the top earners didn't even get it. Like when I said, who didn't feel good? Some of them were like, who wouldn't feel good doing that? And then they turned around and they were shocked that over half of their organization had a problem. And this wasn't at Faith Over Fear 2023, just so you know. It was at Rankmakers Live when I first did this. And so they were shocked. What the heck? And so this is a very powerful exercise for one of two reasons. Number one, it'll feel really good. And any kind of exercise that's helping you solidify your vision for the future is a good thing. Number two, it could reveal to you. All right. So here it is. I want you to pick, and we're not going to do this live because it'll take too long. You need to do this as homework. Pick 3 people you're close to. Best friend, good choice. Mom, dad, good choice. It could, I think it should be someone living, unless you have like a very deep, arguably unhealthy connection to someone who's passed. But I want you to imagine 3 people really close to you. Okay. And you're having a future conversation about what you've accomplished, because we're focused on how to train your mind for wealth. Okay. So this is a future conversation about what you've accomplished. See, what's not useful to you is you using future language. You saying, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm almost a millionaire. I'm going to do like that actually isn't helpful because it's out in the future, and the future is always in the future. So today, if you speak into the future, well, tomorrow's still the future, and then tomorrow will also be the future, and then tomorrow, right? So speaking into the future of what you're going to do is not helpful. That doesn't prepare your mind. It just delays. It's not good. And so this is a future conversation you're having in the future, but you're using your conversation as what you've already accomplished. So it could look something like this: Dad, you'll never believe it, but I'm now the top earner of my company, and I just paid off your house, and I just paid off my truck, and we're going to Sicily, or whatever. You get my drift, right? So it's a future conversation on we'll see. Even there, I said we're going to Italy. No future talk. This is what you've done. I am the number one earner of the company. I am a rock star. I am a millionaire. I did pay off the house. So this is a future conversation, but things you've done. So I want you to lock in when you do this exercise in your homework. I want you to lock in on 3 people close to you And I want you to write down, okay, what are the things you want to accomplish? What are the things you want to accomplish? Do this before the exercise. What are the things you want to accomplish? Pick 3, 4, 5 things. And then have this future conversation with these 3 individuals separately, because we don't need to introduce dynamics of what this person would react versus, And so 3 separate conversations with 3 separate people that are close to you, and you tell them that you've accomplished these 4 or 5 things. Is this making sense? You follow me? You need to know like how to do this. Make sense? Best friend's a good choice. Mom, dad's a good choice. Sister or brother is a good choice. Because I know what's going to go down. I know what's going to happen. So what's going to happen for probably more than half of you is it's not going to feel good. You're going to go to tell your sister, and there'll be a part of you thinking, oh, she's going to ask to borrow money now. You're going to go to tell your dad, and you're going to think, well, he never accomplished his goals. I kind of feel bad telling him I accomplished mine. And so it's going to do one of 2 things. It's either going to make you feel really good, keep doing it, good exercise, or it's going to reveal to you what's actually preventing you from making money, or more technically, becoming wealthy, accomplishing those things. And the good news is everything that you have resistance around, you go to the Lord and you say, Lord, thank you for helping me heal around this. Lord, thank you for wisdom around this. Thank you for clarity around this. And, this is one of the chapters I did not want to write. I just didn't want to write it in Faith Driven Wealth, is the 21 reasons you're broke. I didn't want to write it, but that's the one he nudged me to. And that's the one that more people have commented on than any other chapter. And that's in Faith Driven Wealth. Okay. So that's your exercise. That's step one of 3. Okay. Step number two, I want you to take your annual salary, and I want you, whatever you're making right now. Okay. And I want you to make a plan of what would you do differently if that became your monthly income. We ran an event called Top Earner Academy, and it was my first time ever offering in mass coaching. We offered a mastermind program. The platinum was, I think, around $20,000 or something. And the diamond was $50,000, which honestly, I didn't think anyone would buy. Like, no one's buying that. 50,000, like, that's a lot of money. We do it. 3 people take the 50,000, and 20 or so take the 20,000. And so my sons were there. We had 50,000, we had 20-ish thousand. And so that day, I think I made like 1.1 million, I think. And my sons, I didn't have salespeople there. My sons, who were teenagers, were in the back just taking papers. Like, people were just like, oh. And so I asked them, I said, hey, do you remember when I used to work for that insurance company? And they're like, yeah. And I did, I worked like, 45, 50 hours a week for this insurance company. It was the last job I ever had. And I'm like, well, I just made in one day what I would have made in 12 years. So I've seen not just my annual income become my monthly, I've seen my 12-year income become a daily. No, not every day, right? But on one day. And so here's the deal. I want you to actually make a plan of what would happen. You're making whatever, 50,000 a year, 100,000 a year, whatever you're making. And all of a sudden that becomes your monthly. Create a detailed plan on how would that look differently? Now, most people, if you tell them, hey, what would you do if you had an extra $100,000? They'd say, oh, I'd give it to the poor and I'd donate this and that. And, they say all that stuff. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good. 2 Corinthians 9, 6 through 13 tells us that we'll be abundant in every way if we are generous. But that's not realistic. What would your day-to-day be like? If your annual was your monthly, what would your day-to-day be like? What would your budget be like? What would you be doing with your money? How would that look? Because for you to get more money, there needs to be a plan. So you actually create a vacuum. So if you create a plan of, okay, I would hire these 3 coaches, then I would build out this podcast studio, then I would there needs to be a plan, not just I'm going to give it away. Because if you're just going to give it away, why doesn't the Lord just bless the charities you would give to? Why does he need to bless you if you're just going to give it away? And give it away, it's just not, that's the easy, heartwarming, I look good for everyone kind of answer, but it's not a stewardship answer. That's not the stewardship answer. I would give it away. It's not good. How would you actually steward it? Make a plan. What would it look like? What would change? Would you, on the lower stewardship side, what would you pay off? Right? That's low stewardship. What would you invest in? Where would you sow seeds, right? You can do that. Like, that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with it, and that's a good thing. But that can't be the bulk of your stewardship. I talk a lot about that in Faith Driven Wealth as well. And so make a detailed plan. Okay. How would your life look different? What moves would you make with that kind of money that you just can't make now? So you create a vacuum, you create a space. Okay. That's number two. That's going to be difficult for some of you. Number three, get into the verses. Get into the verses, because some of you, you're sabotaging wealth because you think God doesn't want you wealthy, despite his word. So Psalm 35:27 says he delights in the prosperity of his servant. If you read every version of that, which I have, it's he delights in the well-being, peace, and prosperity of his servant. Okay. Luke 16:9, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves so that when it is gone, you'll be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Think about that. That means use your influence to shine your light brighter. So how might you use your influence? That could be you running events. That could be you building a podcast studio, doing high-end podcasts. That could be you building out your camera, your office setup. That could be you sponsoring, certain events where you're getting in front of higher end people. Right? There's a lot of examples of that. Proverbs 10:22 says, the Lord makes one rich and he adds no sorrow with it. So that's mo money, no problem. All right. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing bad. And then last, but definitely not least, in fact, my book has over 50 powerful prayers for wealth and a ton of biblical verses around wealth. But Deuteronomy 8:17-18. Now, a lot of people like to quote Deuteronomy 8:18, which is, remember the Lord your God who gave you the power to get wealth. I think it is absolute tragic someone refers to Deuteronomy 8:18 without bringing in Deuteronomy 8:17. Deuteronomy 8:17 says, you will think it's by your hand that you become wealthy, but remember the Lord your God who gave you the power to get wealth. We know, James 1:17, John 3:27, that whatever we receive is from heaven above. Anything that we receive. James 1:17, all good and perfect gifts come from the Father of lights. Okay. And so it's okay for you to have money. Just don't let money have you. There's a difference between you having money and using it as a resource versus money having you and it being your source. God is source, money is resource. Know the difference. At the end of Luke 16, Jesus doesn't say you'll either worship God or the devil. He says you'll either worship God or money. Those are the two gods of this world. Just because I'm saying get wealthy. So you could have wealth and have it not have you. One great example of that, I talk about him in the book, is David Green. David Green is the founder of Hobby Lobby. They do $8 billion a year. He donates 50% of his profits to charity, and he's helped fund over 1 billion children hearing the gospel. That's a guy who masters his money. There you go. 3 steps. The mental exercise, I hope you do it. The make a plan, what if your annual became your monthly? And number 3, get into the verses. And if you need help with that, my book will help with that. Okay. Now, another thing that's really helped me is the app that I'm a part of. And we have a 5-day trial to that. If you want to really dive into the Lord's relationship with you and how to better hear in prayer, and it's just changed my life. I mean, I listen to it every single day and I love it. I love it. Feel free to message me on Instagram or Facebook with the number 5. I'll send you over a 5-day trial to check it out. And I appreciate you so very much. Share it with someone, tag somebody if you would like. All right. Talk to you soon. God bless you and your family. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.